There are things that happen in the lives of chosen ones that the world will never understand. Behind the smiles, behind the public appearance, behind the image of peace and strength, there is a sacred, private battlefield, especially within their marital bed. You see, when a chosen one is joined with someone in divine union, whether through marriage, spiritual covenant, or deep soul connection, that bed becomes more than a place of rest. It becomes an altar where destinies intertwine, energies exchange, and battles are fought both seen and unseen. The chosen one does not just lie next to a partner, they lie next to energy, a frequency that either aligns with their divine calling or conflicts with it. That is why not every chosen one easily marries, and even fewer stay married without facing heavy spiritual storms. Before we begin, I want you to pause for a moment. If you have ever felt unseen spiritual forces disturbing your peace in relationships or dreams, or if you have ever woken up feeling drained after sharing your space with someone, then this message has found you at the divine time. This is not coincidence, this is alignment. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more messages meant to protect your destiny. And if you have received this message right when you needed it the most, type 1111 in the comment section for divine blessings and restoration in your life. Let us now uncover what really happens in every chosen one's marital bed, the things they rarely talk about but secretly endure. 1. Spiritual energy exchange. When a chosen one shares intimacy, it's not just physical, it's deeply energetic. Their body is a vessel of divine light, a carrier of sacred frequency that connects directly to the spiritual realm. Unlike ordinary souls, chosen ones are sensitive to energy on levels most people can't even imagine. Every touch, every embrace, every shared moment carries vibration. When they connect with someone, there's an unseen exchange, not just of affection, but of soul essence. Energy flows both ways. If the person they connect with carries jealousy, darkness, or unhealed trauma, that energy doesn't stay contained. It transfers silently into the chosen one's spiritual field. Suddenly their aura feels heavier, their clarity dims, their peace weakens. That's why after intimacy, many chosen ones feel confused, drained, or spiritually numb without understanding why. Their bed becomes the site of invisible exchanges, a place where divine energy collides with human imperfection. They begin to realize that every union, no matter how brief, leaves a spiritual imprint. And because their calling is divine, they cannot afford to mix their sacred energy with chaos. This is why chosen ones are extremely selective, not out of arrogance but divine protection. They know the wrong energy can dim their light, delay their destiny, or distort their spiritual alignment. For them, intimacy is not entertainment, it is covenant. Their body is not a playground, it is a temple. And so they protect it with the same reverence. They protect their purpose, because every exchange either strengthens their light or weakens their spirit. 2. Night visitations and spiritual warfare. Many chosen ones experience strange, almost supernatural sensations at night, the kind that logic cannot explain. Some feel unseen pressure, shifting shadows, or vivid dreams that seem too real to be random. This is because their marital bed often becomes a spiritual battleground, the place where unseen forces of light and darkness collide. When a chosen one sleeps, their physical body rests, but their spirit remains awake, active, and alert. The enemy understands that intimacy is a powerful portal, a gateway of energy that can be used for divine union or spiritual attack. After sacred moments of closeness, chosen ones often attract spiritual warfare in their dreams, nightmares, sleep paralysis, sudden fear, or exhaustion upon waking. These are not coincidences, they are targeted attempts to drain their divine power, to disrupt the frequency of love and purity that their union carries. Darkness cannot stand the glow of divine intimacy, so it attacks where the chosen one is most vulnerable, in rest. That's why some nights feel heavier, why some dreams feel like battles, why they awaken with tears, sweat, or trembling. They're not weak. They're warriors in the unseen. Even in slumber, their spirit fights. Their bed becomes an altar of war and protection, where angels stand guard and the spirit resists invisible forces. The chosen one doesn't rest easily, not because of fear, but because their soul was born for warfare. Every night they survive spiritual attack, their anointing strengthens, and though no one sees the struggle, heaven does, and records every victory. 3. The feeling of restlessness after intimacy. Chosen ones cannot fake peace. Their spirit always speaks truth through feeling. When energy is misaligned, their body reacts like an alarm bell. After intimacy, instead of calmness, they may feel restlessness, heaviness, or emotional disconnection. It's not guilt, it's divine sensitivity. Their spirit recognizes when the connection wasn't spiritually clean or mutually elevated. It's their inner radar, God's way of warning them that something is off. While others might brush off these feelings as random mood swings, the chosen one knows better. Their energy system detects imbalance immediately. They might find themselves unable to sleep, unable to pray clearly, or feeling an unexplainable sense of loss. This is their soul signaling that their energy has been compromised, that an exchange took place, but not all of it was pure. Their marital bed, therefore, becomes a space of revelation, not just romance. Every act of intimacy becomes a test of discernment. The chosen one begins to realize that their peace is the ultimate indicator of spiritual alignment. If the connection is divinely blessed, it brings calm, renewal, and elevation. But if it's rooted in desire without purpose, it leaves behind confusion and fatigue. That's why chosen ones treat intimacy with reverence, not fear, but awareness. They know their spiritual frequency is too rare to merge with energies that drain or deceive. Their restlessness is their soul's way of saying, protect your light. It's not punishment, it's protection. Through that awareness, they learn to listen, to withdraw when needed, and to guard their inner temple with sacred wisdom. 4. Dreams revealing hidden truths about their partner. Chosen ones are natural dreamers, guided through visions, symbols, and revelations that others dismiss as imagination. But their dreams are not random. They're messages delivered from the higher realm. After intimacy or marriage, the dream realm often opens wider, revealing truths that physical eyes cannot see. They may dream vividly about their partner, witnessing hidden emotions, secret struggles, or even dark influences interfering in the relationship. Sometimes the dream is clear, other times it's symbolic, but the message is always accurate. God speaks through dreams because chosen ones are sensitive enough to decode them. In the stillness of night, their spirit travels beyond illusion, revealing what's concealed by charm or pretense. It could be a warning about deception, or a reassurance of divine protection. Either way, the chosen one wakes up knowing something has shifted. They feel it in their soul. That's why many chosen ones keep journals beside their bed, writing every dream, every image, every whisper they receive in the night. Their bed becomes more than a resting place, it's a prophetic channel. Through sleep, God reveals alignment or misalignment, truth or illusion, light or shadow. Sometimes these revelations hurt, but they heal. The chosen one learns to trust the divine whispers of the dream realm more than words spoken by man. It's not paranoia, it's discernment sharpened by divine intimacy. Their dreams protect them, guiding them toward truth, even when their heart is still catching up. 5. Energy cleansing and spiritual purification. After intimacy, chosen ones often feel an unexplainable urge to cleanse, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's not guilt, and it's not ritualistic habit. It's spiritual maintenance. Because energy lingers long after the body separates, chosen ones feel the vibrations left behind. If the connection was spiritually pure, their energy feels elevated, peaceful, renewed, glowing. But if it was unbalanced or tainted, a heavy residue fills the space. Their bed, their room, even their aura feels weighed down. This is why they instinctively turn to prayer, meditation, or cleansing practices afterward. They might anoint themselves with oil, burn incense, speak affirmations, or pray for restoration. These acts aren't superstition, they're energy hygiene. Just like one bathes the body, the spirit too must be purified. The chosen one understands that their home, especially their marital bed, is a container of frequency. When left unclean energetically, it attracts confusion, fatigue, and even spiritual interference. That's why they keep their environment spiritually guarded, with prayer, with music, with divine words that elevate vibration. Every cleansing ritual is a way of resetting divine alignment, of removing any residue of fear, sadness, or other people's projections. For the chosen one, cleansing is sacred, a form of worship, a declaration that their energy belongs to God alone. They cleanse not to erase the past, but to ensure that only divine love and purpose remain within their space. 6. Divine presence and angelic protection. Because of their divine calling, chosen ones are never truly alone, not even in their most private, intimate moments. Their marital bed is not merely a place of rest, it's sacred ground, often visited by divine presence. When love is pure and intention is aligned with God, the atmosphere shifts, the air feels lighter, peace becomes tangible. There's a warmth that fills the room, a sense that unseen eyes are watching, not in intrusion but in guardianship. Angels stand guard around their bed, forming a circle of light to protect their union from intrusion, temptation, or spiritual attack. These beings of light ensure that the chosen one's rest remains blessed, and that their connection remains sanctified. Sometimes, the chosen one senses this presence, a sudden wave of calm, a soft whisper in the silence, or a feeling of being covered by divine peace. It's not imagination, it's the manifestation of divine watchfulness. But the chosen one also knows that this same presence can withdraw when darkness enters, when sin, deceit, or spiritual impurity creeps in. The warmth fades, the air turns heavy, the peace dissolves, and restlessness takes over. This is not punishment, it's divine warning. The chosen one instantly feels the absence of light because their spirit is highly attuned to the heavenly realm. Their bed mirrors the state of their relationship with God. When love is pure, angels dwell. When energy is tainted, light retreats. And so, chosen ones strive to keep their marital union sacred, praying before rest, speaking life into their space, and inviting divine guardianship daily. Their bed becomes a temple of purity, a sanctuary of presence, and a place where heaven meets earth in stillness and light. 7. Prophetic revelation during intimacy. Few ever speak of it, but for chosen ones, even intimacy carries divine messages. Their connection is not just carnal, it's cosmic. During moments of deep vulnerability and union, when the body, heart, and spirit are aligned, they often receive prophetic revelation. It may come as a sudden thought, a flash of insight, a vision that passes through like lightning, or a whisper in the spirit. This happens because intimacy opens portals, not only of emotion, but of spiritual transmission. When two energies merge, information flows freely between heaven and soul. For chosen ones, this moment can unlock divine downloads, messages about destiny, direction, or warning. Sometimes they see the path of their future. Other times they sense what their partner truly carries, their pain, purpose, or hidden spiritual state. It's as if love itself becomes a conduit of revelation. But this is also why purity matters deeply for chosen ones. When the energy connection is impure, distorted, or rooted in lust, those same portals invite confusion, deception, and spiritual interference. Instead of clarity, they receive chaos. Instead of revelation, they feel drained. That's why chosen ones understand that their bodies are not just instruments of pleasure, they are instruments of prophecy. Every sacred act of love is a spiritual covenant that either builds or breaks divine connection. Through intimacy, destinies can be activated, visions can be conceived, and divine energy can be transmitted. That's why for chosen ones, love is not random. It's sacred technology. It's a channel where heaven speaks through human closeness, where spirit and flesh unite to fulfill divine purpose. 8. Testing of faith and patience. For the chosen one, marriage is not merely companionship, it's a classroom of the soul. God uses their relationship and even their marital bed as a tool for spiritual refinement. Their partner becomes both a blessing and a mirror, reflecting their strengths, weaknesses, and hidden wounds. The intimacy they share is not only emotional but also transformational. At first, everything may flow smoothly, passion, peace, and connection, but soon tests arise, moments of silence, emotional distance, or misunderstanding that shake the foundation of their patience. These trials are not punishments, but divine lessons. God allows them so the chosen one can evolve beyond ego and comfort. The marital bed becomes a place of surrender, a sacred arena where humility, forgiveness, and compassion are tested. Sometimes they feel lonely even while lying beside their partner. Sometimes they pray silently through tears, wondering why love feels like warfare. Yet in those moments their spirit grows. Their capacity to love expands. Their heart learns that divine love isn't always about feeling good. It's about staying grounded in purpose when emotions waver. The chosen one discovers that marriage refines more than just character, it shapes destiny. Through endurance and faith, they gain wisdom, empathy, and divine maturity. Their love life becomes a living sermon, proof that even sacred unions must be tested by fire before they shine as gold. Every struggle strengthens their anointing. Every silence teaches surrender, and every test prepares them for the kind of love that mirrors heaven, patient, pure, and eternal. 9. Spiritual covenant and destiny activation. When two chosen souls unite in truth, their marital bed becomes holy ground. Not just a place of affection, but a portal of destiny. Every act of love becomes a sacred covenant that binds not only their bodies, but their purposes. In that sacred union, energy synchronizes with divine frequency, aligning them with heaven's timing. Prayers become more powerful, visions more vivid, manifestations more rapid. When they touch, creation responds, because their connection carries divine agreement. It's not just love, it's prophecy fulfilled. But this very power is why the enemy attacks chosen unions so fiercely. Darkness knows that when two divine energies align in truth, their light multiplies exponentially. Their union births abundance, purpose, and legacy. Therefore, the enemy sows division, temptation, or misunderstanding to break their alignment. Yet every chosen couple that endures becomes unstoppable, a living example of divine partnership. Their marital bed becomes both battlefield and altar, a place of warfare and worship, where destiny is conceived and renewed. When they pray together, heaven moves. When they love purely, healing flows through generations. Their energy opens portals of favor, creativity, and divine acceleration. This is why chosen ones guard their union fiercely. They understand that it's more than romance, it's mission. Their love carries prophetic weight. Their covenant is heaven's signature on earth. And when two chosen ones unite with pure hearts and divine intention, the entire spiritual realm takes notice, because something eternal has been activated. Their bed becomes a temple of destiny, where purpose breathes and divine will manifests through love. So if you are a chosen one who has faced confusion, strange experiences, or heavy dreams around your bed, you are not crazy. You are chosen. Your energy is sacred, your presence is divine, and your union carries power the world cannot comprehend. Guard it, cleanse it, protect it, and never let anyone defile your peace. This is the Zillion Mind channel. Type 1111 in the comments. If this message came to you at the perfect divine time, and may your home, your bed, and your spirit be surrounded by light, love, and angelic protection. Thank you for watching. Every chosen one reaches a season where heaven feels distant. You pray, but the answers feel delayed. You seek direction, but confusion seems louder. You try to walk in alignment, yet obstacles appear out of nowhere. Many begin to ask, why is God not speaking to me the way He used to? Why does it feel like my prayers are hitting a wall? What most don't realize is that there are subtle but powerful barriers, internal and external, blocking clarity, guidance, and divine communication. These barriers often hide in familiar routines and emotional patterns, silently disconnecting you from God's voice. Before we go deeper into these 9 spiritual barriers, I encourage you, if this message reaches you in a moment you needed it, to subscribe so you don't miss the wisdom meant for your growth. And if this resonates with your spirit, type 1111 in the comments as a sign of alignment, openness, and divine blessing flowing into your life. 1. Internal noise. God often speaks in stillness, but many chosen ones are surrounded by internal storms so loud that divine whispers cannot be heard. Overthinking becomes a constant echo chamber, repeating fears, replaying painful memories, analyzing every small detail, and drowning out the gentle instructions God sends. Worry pulls your attention into possible outcomes that never happen, creating imagined battles that exhaust your spirit before the real day even arrives. The mind becomes so saturated with what-ifs, and maybe this and maybe that the voice of God, which moves softly, is pushed into the background. God does not shout over chaos. He has no reason to compete with noise created by fear, anxiety, or doubt. Stillness is His language, and clarity flows only into a quiet heart. But when your internal world is loud, your spiritual receptors weaken. Even when God is speaking, you cannot tell if it is Him or your anxiety pretending to sound divine. The enemy knows this. He knows a quiet soul is dangerous, because a quiet soul becomes aligned, sharp, and aware of heaven's codes and directions. So he amplifies the noise. Through mental clutter, emotional flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, and unnecessary worries, hoping to drown out God's messages. Many chosen ones are not disconnected from God. They are simply overwhelmed internally. They pray but cannot feel peace. Not because God is absent, but because their spiritual antenna is buried under layers of mental static. The noise becomes a barrier to discernment. When your mind is racing, revelation becomes distorted. When you cannot slow down, you cannot tune in. God's voice has not stopped. Your inner storm is too loud. Only when the chosen one learns to silence the mind, through prayer, fasting, rest, stillness, or intentional focus, does divine clarity return. Quietness is not weakness. It is the atmosphere where God's voice becomes unmistakably clear. 2. Unhealed emotions. Unhealed emotions act like filters over your spiritual ears, coloring how you perceive God, people, and even your own destiny. When pain from betrayal is still sitting in your spirit, you may interpret God's warnings as fear-based paranoia, or you may assume every closed door is another rejection instead of protection. Rejection can distort your relationship with God to the point where you feel unworthy of blessings He has already prepared for you. Trauma can make you resist what God sends because you have learned consciously or unconsciously to associate good things with eventual loss. Emotional wounds can shape your spiritual perception more powerfully than any external influence. Many chosen ones are not lacking divine instruction, they are simply hearing through layers of hurt that bend the message. It's like trying to read a message through cracked glass. The words are there, but the distortion changes what you think you see. When your heart is bruised, you start expecting disappointment, so even when God says go, you may hear danger, and when He says wait, you may hear abandonment. Pain becomes the interpreter, and pain is a terrible translator. It will always twist spiritual truth. Unhealed emotions also create defensive barriers around your intuition, making you hesitant to trust your own discernment. You become hypervigilant, questioning everything. Is this really God, or is it just my imagination? But the deeper issue is that your emotional wounds are louder than your spiritual sensitivity. God's voice is gentle, steady, loving, but trauma echoes in sharp, fearful tones. Until the chosen one confronts and heals the hurt, God's guidance will continue to feel unclear, inconsistent, or confusing. Healing restores spiritual accuracy. When the heart is whole, divine messages become direct again. The problem was never silence. It was distortion. 3. Wrong attachments. It becomes nearly impossible to hear God clearly when you are tied to people who are not part of your destiny. Some relationships drain your spirit, pulling your energy into cycles of conflict, gossip, drama, or emotional obligation. Some friendships distract you from your assignment because they anchor you to environments your spirit has already outgrown. Certain environments suffocate your spiritual senses, numbing your intuition and weakening your discernment. When you remain connected to those who are misaligned with your calling, your spiritual frequency becomes disrupted. God may be sending guidance, but the noise of these attachments overwhelms your sensitivity. Many chosen ones miss divine direction because they stay loyal to connections God has already released them from. Loyalty to the wrong people can delay destiny more than any spiritual attack. When you hold on to individuals who operate from jealousy, selfishness, confusion, or negativity, their energy becomes a fog around your spirit. It becomes harder to know if the caution you feel is God nudging you or the anxiety coming from their influence. Some people are not evil, they are simply not aligned. And misalignment can be just as spiritually destructive as outright harm. When your circle is full of those who do not share your values, your purpose, or your growth, the voice of God becomes faint. God often speaks through peace, but peace cannot survive where the wrong people live. Many chosen ones do not realize that their discernment becomes sharper the moment they disconnect from certain individuals. Once the wrong attachments are removed, the static clears, and suddenly God's guidance becomes crisp, strong, and unmistakable. The silence you thought was heaven withholding was actually heaven waiting for you to detach. God will not compete with voices that drown out His own. Once the chosen one lets go, the clarity flows. 4. Disobedience to previous instructions. God does not release new guidance when old instructions remain unfulfilled. Many chosen ones cry out, "God is silent," but the silence is not punishment. It is a pause. A necessary, intentional pause waiting for obedience. Heaven operates through order, and spiritual assignments build step by step. When you delay obedience, you delay destiny. When you ignore a previous instruction, whether it was to leave a relationship, start a mission, move to a different environment, forgive someone, or fix a habit, you unintentionally block the next phase of direction. God does not waste revelation. He will not give you step 5 when step 3 is still untouched. Many chosen ones confuse God's stillness with abandonment, but it is really alignment. God is waiting for your action before giving you more. It's like a teacher who cannot hand you the next chapter until you complete the current one. Not because the teacher is withholding, but because progression requires foundation. When a chosen one keeps asking God, "What should I do next?" heaven responds, "Do what I already told you." Each instruction is connected. Each step unlocks the next. Sometimes God's silence is a divine reminder. You already know what to do, complete it. But spiritual procrastination, fear, or confusion can make you stagnate. You may be praying for clarity while heaven is waiting for movement. You may be pleading for direction while God is waiting for obedience. Once you finally follow the previous instruction, the fog lifts. The next step becomes obvious, natural, and almost effortless. There is no greater clarity than obedience. When you honor what God already said, divine momentum returns. The silence breaks. The path becomes illuminated once again. Not because God finally answered, but because obedience opened the channel that was blocked. 5. Secret habits and hidden cycles. This is not judgment. It is spiritual reality. Repeated habits that weaken your spirit, even if hidden from others, can cloud your ability to hear God clearly. Secret struggles, whether emotional, mental, or behavioral, carry weight, and spiritual weight affects spiritual sensitivity. When guilt grows, prayer becomes harder. When shame increases, confidence in approaching God decreases. These cycles create an internal heaviness that makes divine whispers feel distant. The issue is not that God stopped speaking. It's that your spirit is too weighed down to receive. Hidden cycles often come with emotional baggage, regret, frustration, self-condemnation, and these emotions form barriers around your intuition. When you feel unworthy, you stop expecting to hear God. When you feel stuck, you stop believing clarity will come. The enemy uses these cycles to isolate you, telling you that you cannot seek God while struggling, when in reality, God is the place you must run to. But the shame attached to secret habits convinces you to hide, and hiding distances you from divine instruction. These hidden patterns also drain your energy, leaving you spiritually exhausted even before the day begins. When your internal world is heavy, it becomes difficult to distinguish God's voice from your own feelings of inadequacy. You may confuse conviction with condemnation, or you may mistake God's guidance for your own anxiety. But once you confront these cycles, not with fear, but with honesty and surrender, your spiritual clarity begins to rebuild. God is not looking for perfection. He is looking for willingness. The moment you release the weight of secret struggles, your spiritual hearing sharpens again. The heaviness lifts, the path becomes clearer. The voice you thought had disappeared was always there. Your spirit was simply too burdened to listen. Freedom restores discernment, and once the weight is removed, revelation flows freely. 6. Impatience. Many chosen ones desire answers instantly. Direction now, confirmation now, breakthrough now. Impatience becomes a spiritual pressure that pushes them into decisions God never authorized and timelines heaven never planned. When the heart is restless, the spirit becomes loud in all the wrong ways. You begin to interpret impatience as urgency, anxiety as insight, and pressure as divine instruction. But God often speaks slowly, deliberately, and intentionally. His voice is not rushed, and his timing is never desperate. Impatience is dangerous because it creates spiritual illusions. It makes you believe that if you don't act now, you'll miss your opportunity, when in truth, anything God intends for you cannot be taken from you. Impatience makes you step ahead of divine timing and settle for counterfeit blessings, opportunities that look right, feel right, and sound right, but are completely out of alignment with destiny. When you hurry, you begin accepting signs that are not from God simply because they appear convenient. You ignore red flags. You distort discernment. You force outcomes that were never meant to be forced. And when the pace of your life becomes too loud, the voice of God becomes quiet. Not because he stopped speaking, but because your speed makes subtle guidance impossible to hear. God's voice thrives in patience. Patience opens your spiritual senses, sharpens your intuition, and grounds your decisions in wisdom rather than emotion. Impatience removes you from that spiritual center. The enemy loves impatient chosen ones because they can be misled by urgency. He knows that if he can't block your blessing, he can rush you into the wrong thing before the right thing arrives. Many chosen ones have lost years, opportunities, and peace simply because they could not wait long enough to see God's full picture. But when you learn to slow down, truly slow down, and trust the divine pace, everything shifts. Clarity returns. Discernment deepens. You stop chasing answers and begin receiving them. God speaks most clearly to the heart that is willing to wait. 7. Fear. Fear blocks divine clarity more than almost anything else. Fear shrinks your faith and magnifies your imagination in the worst possible ways. It takes small uncertainties and inflates them into overwhelming threats. Fear makes you hear danger when God is actually saying move forward. It makes you freeze when God is telling you to step out. Fear creates illusions that look real, sound real, and feel real. But they are nothing more than shadows, designed to distract you from your destiny. When fear becomes the loudest voice in your life, it becomes nearly impossible to distinguish God's direction. Fear clouds your discernment to the point where every instruction feels risky, every opportunity feels dangerous, and every new step feels like a trap. You begin to confuse your anxiety with intuition and your caution with divine warning. Fear also disrupts your spiritual sensitivity. God often speaks in confidence, assurance, and peace, but fear speaks in panic, confusion, and worst-case scenarios. When you are afraid, your spirit becomes closed. You interpret everything through a lens of insecurity. What if it fails? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm not good enough? These internal questions drown out the calm, steady guidance God offers. Fear disconnects you from divine purpose because it convinces you that you are safer staying where you are instead of going where God is leading. The enemy uses fear to keep chosen ones small, silent, and stagnant, not because they lack calling, but because they lack courage. Fear does not mean God is silent. It means your inner world is too overwhelmed to recognize His voice. But the moment you confront fear, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by refusing to obey it, your spiritual clarity begins to return. Faith restores your hearing, peace becomes possible again, and the voice of God, once muted by fear, becomes unmistakable, strong, and reassuring. Fear may challenge you, but it cannot stop you unless you surrender to it. When faith rises, fear loses its power, and divine direction becomes clear once more. 8. The need for control. A chosen one who tries to control every outcome unknowingly builds a spiritual wall that blocks divine flow. Control often comes from fear. Fear that God won't come through. Fear that things won't work out. Fear of losing what you care about, or fear of repeating past pain. So you begin strategizing every detail of your life, planning every possibility, and trying to anticipate every scenario. But control is a heavy burden, and it disrupts your sensitivity to God's direction. God's voice becomes clearer when you surrender, not when you tighten your grip. When you try to orchestrate everything yourself, you close your heart to unexpected blessings and divine surprises. You become so focused on protecting yourself that you leave no room for God to do what only He can do. Control narrows your vision. You can only see what you can manage. But God's plan is always bigger than what your hands can handle. When you cling too tightly to plans, timelines, relationships, expectations, God waits. Not because He is withholding, but because He refuses to compete with your fear disguised as control. Many chosen ones mistake overthinking for responsibility, but in reality, it is often a lack of trust. Divine guidance flows where surrender exists. When you stop forcing outcomes, you begin to feel God leading you with ease. The anxiety fades, the confusion settles, the path unfolds step by step. The need for control makes you deaf to God's whisper because you are too busy directing your own steps. But once you release your grip, once you finally let go of the illusion that you must manage everything alone, your spiritual clarity strengthens. You begin hearing God not through worry, but through peace. You stop reacting from fear and start moving from faith. Control is exhausting, surrender is transformative, and a surrendered chosen one hears God with profound clarity. 9. Spiritual exhaustion. Even the strongest chosen one becomes disconnected when spiritually drained. Spiritual exhaustion dulls your discernment, weakens your intuition, and makes even simple decisions feel overwhelming. When you are tired, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, the voice of God becomes distant, not because He is silent, but because you lack the strength to listen deeply. Fatigue clouds your perception. You begin mistaking spiritual attacks for ordinary stress, and ordinary stress for spiritual warfare. Your ability to sense God's peace fades. Your inner world becomes cluttered with worries and responsibilities you have been carrying for too long. Spiritual exhaustion often comes from constant giving energy, giving support, giving encouragement, while receiving little replenishment in return. It also comes from fighting battles without resting, carrying burdens without relief, and trying to stay strong without pause. When your spirit is worn down, everything feels heavier. Prayer feels harder, meditation feels distant, worship feels mechanical. You lose the emotional capacity to tune into the gentle, subtle voice of God. But exhaustion is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you have been operating beyond your capacity for too long. God never designed the chosen one to live in continuous warfare without rest. Rest is spiritual. Stillness is healing. Renewal is necessary. When you allow yourself to rest, truly rest, your spiritual senses begin to reawaken. Suddenly the fog lifts, the confusion lightens, the heaviness fades. Clarity returns not because God changed, but because you renewed. Rest restores revelation. A refreshed spirit hears God with precision, peace, and depth. Many chosen ones think something is wrong with their faith when they can't hear God, but often nothing is wrong. They are simply tired. When exhaustion lifts, the divine voice you thought disappeared becomes clear once again. If any of these 9 barriers resonated with you, understand this clearly: God has not abandoned you. His voice has not disappeared. His guidance has not stopped. You are simply navigating the same obstacles every chosen one must face before stepping into their next level of spiritual elevation. Quiet your mind. Heal your heart. Release wrong connections. Act on what God already said. Break old cycles. Be patient. Release fear. Surrender control. Restore your spirit. When you do, the voice of God will return louder, clearer, and more undeniable than ever before. Is the Zillion Mind Channel. If this message was exactly what your soul needed, remember to type 1111 for divine alignment. Thank you for watching. My dear chosen one, listen closely, because this message is not a coincidence. It found you for a reason. You see, love is one of the most divine forces in existence. It heals, it transforms, and it awakens. But when you search for it in the wrong places, it does the opposite. It drains, deceives, and destroys. Many of God's chosen ones have been wounded, not because they loved, but because they went searching for love in places God told them not to go. The world teaches you to chase after love, to hunt it down, to settle for anything that feels warm for a moment. But God says, do not look for light in places filled with darkness, because what you think is love might just be a trap dressed in emotion, waiting to consume your spirit. Before we begin, if this message reaches your heart at the exact moment you needed it, then this is your confirmation that God is speaking directly to you. Type 1111 in the comments section to seal this message with divine alignment and blessings. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because every word shared here is meant to awaken you, strengthen your spirit, and help you walk in divine wisdom. Remember, the chosen ones are not meant to love blindly. They are meant to love divinely. Now, let us go deeper into the 9 places you should never go in search for love, because these are the very places God has warned are filled with hate and deception. 1. The place of desperation. Never go looking for love when your soul is desperate. Desperation is one of the most dangerous states a person can be in, because it blinds your discernment and weakens your spiritual defenses. When your heart is hungry, your standards lower without you even realizing it. You begin to confuse attention with affection, lust with love, and manipulation with care. You start calling toxicity passion and distance independence. The enemy understands this weakness well. He uses your longing as bait. He knows that when your spirit is starving for connection, you'll settle for crumbs instead of waiting for a feast. But remember, chosen one, God's love never demands you to beg. True love is not found in chasing, convincing, or proving your worth. It is found in peace, in alignment, and in timing. When love is divine, it won't make you anxious, it will make you calm. So before you go searching, take a step back and heal your hunger. Learn to fill your own cup with the presence of God. When your soul is full, you no longer cling out of fear. You give out of overflow. Desperation will make you run toward anything that looks like relief, but healing will teach you to wait for what is right. Be still, chosen one. When the time is right, love will not make you chase. It will recognize you, choose you, and meet you where you are whole. Until then, let your solitude become sacred, for it is better to walk alone in peace than to run toward love that was never meant to last. 2. The place of the past. You cannot find love in a place God already told you to leave. When you keep returning to what once hurt you, you're telling God that you trust your history more than His promise. Many chosen ones keep revisiting old relationships, hoping that this time the ending will be different. But going back to an old situation that broke you is like trying to resurrect something God buried for your protection. The past is a graveyard, and no matter how familiar it feels, it cannot hold your future. Some people are lessons, not lifetimes. God closed certain doors because He knew what you didn't, that love there would eventually destroy you. When you insist on reopening them, you delay the blessing that's meant to find you. Don't call it love if it keeps you chained to pain. Don't confuse nostalgia for divine instruction. You cannot walk into new seasons while holding hands with old patterns. When God removes someone, it's not rejection, it's redirection. You're not losing love, you're gaining freedom. The heart often looks back because it remembers the comfort of the familiar. But healing means learning to trust that what's ahead is greater than what's gone. Stop looking for life in what God has declared dead. Let the past stay buried. You can't receive new love while your hands are full of what was meant to end. Release it, mourn it, bless it, but then move forward, because your promised land is waiting, and it's not behind you. 3. The place of appearance. Don't search for love in the realm of appearances, because everything seen is temporary, but the unseen, the heart, the soul, the spirit, is eternal. Beauty fades, money shifts, status crumbles, but the essence of who someone is remains. Too many people fall for the outer image and end up drowning in the shallow. The world teaches us to chase the glamorous, the polished, the physically appealing, but love is never skin deep. Chosen one, your soul is wired for connection, not consumption. What your spirit seeks is authenticity, not allure. A beautiful face can attract you, but only a beautiful soul can sustain you. Look deeper than what the eyes can see. If their spirit is cold, no amount of beauty can warm your heart. If their words are sweet but their energy drains you, that is not love, that is illusion. The enemy often dresses deception in appealing forms because he knows the flesh is weak. But God does not send love wrapped in vanity. He sends it clothed in humility, kindness, and peace. True love will not need filters or performance. It will feel safe, steady, and sincere. The person God sends will reflect His light, not the world's glamour. So guard your heart from shallow attractions. Don't be deceived by what sparkles on the surface. Seek what glows from within. Because when beauty fades and riches change, only character will remain. And if their soul doesn't honor yours, then their beauty is only a mask waiting to fall. 4. The place of the crowd. You won't find divine love in the crowd, because what is sacred rarely hides among the common. The crowd moves with trends, not truth. It chases excitement, not enlightenment. In the crowd, everyone is performing, projecting an image, seeking validation and craving attention. But real love doesn't grow in noisy places. It blooms in the quiet, where two spirits meet without masks. Chosen one, you must understand. Your love story is not meant to be like everyone else's. The love God has for you is not popular, it's purposeful. When you search for love among the loud and shallow, you will only encounter temporary connections and empty promises. The crowd thrives on distraction. Divine love thrives on depth. Don't let loneliness drive you into social chaos. Step out of the noise and into solitude. It is in the stillness that God refines you and reveals who is meant for you. Love found in the crowd often fades as soon as the spotlight shifts. But love sent by God endures even in silence. Many miss their blessing because they refuse to separate from the masses. But chosen ones are set apart, not blended in. You are not meant to chase what everyone else chases. Your love will not come from popularity, it will come from alignment. So don't be afraid to walk alone for a while. The path to true connection often begins in isolation, because solitude is where clarity is born. And when God finally sends the one meant for you, you'll realize that leaving the crowd was the first act of real love for yourself. 5. The place of pleasure. Love does not live in the place of constant pleasure. In today's world, pleasure has been glorified to the point that many confuse it with intimacy. But there's a vast difference between what touches your body and what touches your soul. Pleasure can stimulate you for a moment, but love sustains you for a lifetime. The more you seek connection through instant gratification, the more your spirit becomes numb to depth. Lust whispers, "This feels right," even when it's wrong. It promises excitement, but leaves emptiness in its wake. Many chosen ones fall into this trap, thinking that being desired equals being valued. But desire alone is not devotion. Your worth is not measured by how many people want your body, but by how sacredly you guard your soul. When you chase pleasure, you feed the flesh. When you wait for love, you nourish the spirit. God's kind of love doesn't burn out after the moment. It endures through trials and time. The one meant for you will not come to consume you. They will come to cover you with peace. The world will tempt you with temporary satisfaction, but the divine will offer eternal connection. So guard your purity and your purpose. Don't give sacred parts of yourself to people who only want pieces. Love waits, lust rushes, love builds, lust breaks. And chosen one, remember, anyone can touch your body, but only the right one can touch your soul. Wait for the one who does both in the light of God, not in the shadow of temptation. 6. The place of wounded people. You cannot heal yourself by loving someone who refuses to heal. Many chosen ones have mistaken brokenness for depth, thinking that if they can just love hard enough, sacrifice deeply enough, or be patient long enough, they'll transform someone's pain into peace. But love was never meant to be a rescue mission. It was meant to be a partnership. When you take on the role of healer in a relationship where the other person denies their wounds, you don't fix them, you lose yourself. You cannot pour into someone whose spirit is still leaking. When a person hasn't confronted their pain, they project it. They hurt the very hands trying to help them. You end up becoming collateral damage in battles that were never yours to fight. Chosen one, remember, God did not call you to be anyone's savior. He already filled that role. You are called to love, yes, but not at the cost of your own wholeness. You can pray for them, you can wish them healing, but you cannot walk their journey for them. Love does not grow in the soil of chaos. It blossoms in the garden of peace, and if your peace keeps dying where they remain, that is your sign. It's time to release. The right love will not require you to shrink or bleed to prove your loyalty. It will not drain you, it will water you. Heal first. Become whole within yourself. When you are healed, you will no longer be drawn to people who need saving. You'll be drawn to those who are ready to build. Only then will you recognize the kind of love that mirrors God's heart, peaceful, patient, and pure. 7. The place of rebellion. Some people go searching for love in rebellion, out of spite, anger, or defiance. They say, "I'll show them. I'll find someone better." But love born from pride will never bring peace. When you chase relationships to prove a point, you step outside of God's alignment and enter the territory of deception. The enemy knows how to dress distractions as replacements. He knows how to send someone who looks like healing but feels like chaos. And because your heart is seeking validation instead of connection, you'll take the counterfeit as confirmation. But chosen one, revenge is not redemption. You cannot use another person to fill the space where your pain still lives. God's kind of love cannot be found through bitterness. It's found through surrender. Every time you try to prove your worth through another relationship, you delay your divine one. Because love that begins in rebellion always ends in regret. Be patient. Let God heal the wound that made you want to prove yourself in the first place. You don't need to show anyone what they lost, you need to remember who you are. Real love doesn't arrive through pride. It arrives through peace. So if your spirit feels rushed, pressured, or vengeful, that's not love. It's ego. Wait for the love that comes through stillness, the kind that doesn't compete or compare. Because when it's from God, you won't have to perform, you'll just align. Let your silence speak louder than your revenge. God is not delaying your love story. He's writing it in such a way that no counterfeit can take its place. 8th, the place of darkness. Chosen one, you will never find true love in dark environments. Light and darkness cannot coexist. One will always overpower the other. Many go searching for divine connection in places where God's presence cannot dwell. Clubs filled with lust, social circles built on jealousy, or relationships founded on deceit. But you cannot expect holy love in unholy places. The energy of darkness suffocates purity. It lures you with pleasure but binds you with pain. The reason God keeps pulling you away from certain people or spaces is not rejection, it's protection. Your spirit was not designed to thrive in environments polluted with negativity and moral decay. When your atmosphere is wrong, your discernment weakens and your spirit begins to dim. Protect your energy. Pay attention to how you feel in certain spaces. If your spirit feels heavy, that is God whispering, leave. Darkness might promise excitement, but it always leads to emptiness. God's love, however, leads to elevation. The person meant for you will not pull you deeper into temptation. They will lift you higher into purpose. They will not hide your light. They will help it shine brighter. Remember, divine love does not require you to compromise your faith or your peace. If you must lose yourself to keep someone, that is not love. It's bondage. Step into environments where your light is honored, not mocked. Surround yourself with those who speak life, not poison. The wrong atmosphere will always suffocate the right heart, but the right atmosphere will nurture the love that God has prepared for you. 9. The place of impatience. The final place you should never go in search of love is the place of impatience. Impatience is where many chosen ones fall, right before their blessing arrives. When you get tired of waiting, you start forcing connections. You convince yourself that almost right is good enough. You try to make things happen in your timing instead of trusting God's. But impatience will always lead you into counterfeits, because anything forced is not from the Father. The enemy loves to operate in your moments of weariness. He knows how to send someone who looks like the answer, but carries the wrong spirit. Remember this: the love that is meant for you will not come through confusion, mixed signals, or anxiety. It will come through peace. The one God sends will not make you question your worth. They will confirm it. Be still, chosen one. Your waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. God is refining you, molding you, teaching you how to love from a healed and whole heart. Every delay is divine protection from heartbreaks that would have derailed your destiny. When the time is right, love will flow naturally. You won't have to chase or control it. In the meantime, let God be your fulfillment. The more you rest in Him, the less you'll crave from others. Because when your heart is content in God, you stop mistaking loneliness for readiness. So wait, not with frustration, but with faith. The love written in heaven for you will arrive on earth at the perfect time, and it will be worth every moment of patience. This is the Zillion Mind channel. If this message resonated with your spirit, know that it was divine timing. God wanted you to hear this so you could stop searching for love in places that only drain your soul. You are not hard to love. You've just been looking in hard places. When you align your heart with God, the love meant for you will find you effortlessly. Remember, where God's presence is absent, love cannot thrive. If this message spoke to you right now, type 1111 in the comments for divine blessings and alignment, and make sure you subscribe, because your season of divine love is closer than you think. Thank you for watching.